What's going on, guys? I'm Chris, and welcome back to another video. Today I am ranking all 11 David Fincher movies from least favorite to favorite. Now, Fincher, obviously one of the most acclaimed directors in all of Hollywood. He's made cult classics, masterpieces, some movies that I think miss the mark, so I'm really excited to get into all of his movies, as Mank just hit Netflix the other day. Before I give you guys my ranking, definitely hit the like button and comment down below your ranking of the David Fincher movies. So coming in at number 11, we've got Alien 3, and I feel like this is easily everyone's least favorite David Fincher movie. There have been interviews where Fincher has come out and said, I want no part of this movie, I hate this movie more than most people. There was just a ton of studio interference. I actually just watched it before filming this. I dreaded through this movie. I did not like it at all. I was losing interest fast, and it is a disgrace to the first two Alien movies, what happens in the first 10 minutes, and the whole entire movie, honestly, is a shell of what the first two Alien movies had, with great horror sci-fi and great action sci-fi. This movie really had none of that. The CGI was awful. There was really no director. I've heard that Fincher just had to tie this movie together to get it out for the studio, because this movie is not good at all. It is terrible, and I will never watch it again. Coming in at number 10 for me is going to be Mank, the newest David Fincher movie that just did not land with me at all. I found it to be wildly pretentious, as it relied on a lot of insider information when it comes to Citizen Kane, and I'm not a fan of Citizen Kane. You can check out my full review up above if you really want my in-depth thoughts on Mank. But for what it is, I think that it's cool that they made it look black and white. It's got some nice sound design to it as well. Gary Oldman's really good in the role too, but the directing is lacking, which is sad, because I really like David Fincher, and you never really have that moment where you're like, oh, this is a Fincher movie, I love this. It just lacked for me. It was a snooze fest from start to finish, and a movie that I probably will never revisit. Coming in at number 9 for me is going to be The Game. I think this is one of the more underrated movies considered by many. It stars Michael Douglas, and it's an interesting movie. The premise is really bizarre, something I'd never seen before, as Michael Douglas's character essentially signs up for some game where he doesn't know what's real and what's not. There's twists and turns throughout a lot of this movie. Sean Penn is in here, who's one of my favorite underrated actors. I know he's won 2 Oscars, but it's like he kind of just fell off the face of the earth. He was more popular in the early 2000s. I really like Sean Penn, though. And next time that question comes up in a Q&A, someone remind me, Sean Penn, because he's great. But the movie just kind of goes, and there's this nice mystery to the first hour, and then it kind of just gets more and more bizarre without any answers, really. And that's a massive issue I have, is there's no real clarity, in my opinion. The ending of the movie is insane, and it did drag quite a bit throughout. Like, there were just sections where I'm like, why should I care about these characters? The character development was lacking. There was no real desire or interest for me in these characters, so it made certain situations really tough when it comes to having to care about what's going on. And the way the movie wrapped up, I was not a fan of at all. So it hasn't sat well with me. It's not an awful movie. It's decent enough, but it's definitely on the bottom tier when it comes to Fincher. Coming in at number 8 for me is going to be Panic Room. Now, I just watched this one for the first time, and I have to say I really enjoyed this movie. It is a very self-contained thriller, and it knows how to be effective in that. I love one-location movies. Reservoir Dogs I always gush about when it comes to one location, 12 Angry Men, and this is essentially a one-location movie. I mean, it takes place in this house, in this panic room for most of the movie. You could tell if Fincher is directing this movie. That's what I love about it. You can tell that he's behind the camera with the cinematographer. He's got his mind at work. There are a lot of shots that remind me of some shots from Fight Club and Seven, with the way that certain things are between transitions when they're going between rooms, and I just love the way that this movie flows. It's intense as hell for that first hour. Then something kind of happens around the hour mark that took me out of it a little, because I was really interested in what was going on. I'm not going to spoil it. And then certain things might be removed in the second half that I missed because I really enjoyed it in the first half. But overall, Panic Room is a really, really solid suspense-building movie. Jodie Foster gives a solid performance. Forest Whitaker probably steals the show when it comes to performances, but Fincher's directing here is on point. It's earlier in his career. It's after he did Fight Club and Seven. But honestly, this is probably his most slept-on movie, in my opinion. I know a lot of people would argue The Game, but Panic Room is an extremely solid thriller that builds tension from start to finish. Yes, it can drag on a little bit as it kind of meanders there, trying to figure out exactly what it wants to be towards the hour 20 mark, I want to say, but it ends with a bang. You guys should watch Panic Room if you haven't seen it. I think it's super slept on. So coming in at number 7 for me, this is probably the hottest take on the list, is going to be Zodiac, the movie that came out in 2007 starring Gyllenhaal, RDJ, Mark Ruffalo. So you've got some MCU alum in there, and I've always found this movie to be really just not all that. I know a lot of people love this movie. It's their favorite Fincher movie. They just gush about it, and I watched it in 2018 for the first time, and I was underwhelmed. early on, I was like, this movie's going to be amazing. And then 2 hours went by and I was like, my goodness, is this movie ever going to end? It did start to drag on for me. Now, I like Zodiac. I want to set that clear. I like Zodiac. I think that it's definitely one of Fincher's best when it comes to creating such a creepy, eerie feel. Whether it's the scene early on by the river when they're on that couple's on the picnic, that's disturbing stuff. And then the basement scene that everyone gushes about is really great filmmaking, and Gyllenhaal kills it there. That is probably the most suspenseful, memorable scene from this movie. But it's one that I rarely think about revisiting. It's just so long, and it doesn't really give me the clarity I would like in the end. If you guys think I'm crazy for that, let me know down below. But Zodiac, to me, is one I probably need to give another watch, but it's just not towards the top when it comes to Fincher. Coming in at number 6 for me is going to be The Girl with a Dragon Tattoo. Now, I watched this movie for the first time this year, and I really enjoyed this one. Granted, it is extremely slow moving in that first hour, really, because it's building Daniel Craig's character and Rooney Mara's character, but about the hour mark, they come together, and that's when things take off. It gets really intense. You can tell right then and there, this is a David Fincher movie, and I absolutely love the finale of this movie. It's riveting. Stellan Skarsgård is great in a supporting role. Christopher Plummer. There's just this unique mystery going on throughout, and while it does get bogged down in the first hour, I'd say, by like journalist talk and some political jargon, I think that Rooney Mara's performance alone is amazing. She got nominated for an Oscar here, rightfully so. This movie is extremely disturbing and dark and will make you feel dirty after you watch it. I literally took a shower after I watched this movie because it made me feel so gross when I was watching it. So Fincher crafts such an eerie atmosphere. Daniel Craig is really great. It's nice to see him in movies that aren't James Bond sometimes, and I think the mystery here is really intriguing to me. It's essentially like Zodiac in the sense that you're trying to find a killer, right? And that's what Fincher kind of specializes in. I haven't seen Mindhunter. I know I need to watch it, but he really does like to dig into the psychosis of things and serial killers and the really dark side of humanity. So I really like Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. It's a movie I won't rewatch often, but if I do, it will be on a cold winter's night. So before I give you guys my top 5, definitely comment down below your favorite and least favorite Fincher movies, your ranking of all his movies, and definitely hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on future rankings and reviews and all that good stuff. But coming in at number 5 for me, I know, don't hate me, don't unsubscribe, is going to be Seven, the movie that came out in 1995. It stars Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman and the man who shall not be named, Kevin Spacey. This is such an effective movie, as each crime, each murder, if you will, is essentially based off one of the 7 deadly sins, hence the name Seven, and that premise alone is just very unique. Now, this is an extremely disturbing movie, one that I've actually only seen one time. It's not one I ever want to go back and rewatch, maybe ever, and I know that might be strange to some of you, but it's still masterclass filmmaking when it comes to crafting suspense and leading up to a phenomenal third act. The final 20 or so minutes of this movie is really what hits it home. I mean, what's in the box? Anytime someone gets a package, anywhere, they say what's in the box, even if they haven't seen Seven. What's in the box? That line transcends this movie, and the finale is so much better than everything else. That's the only minor gripe that I have, but it's still probably the moment where people are like, David Fincher, this guy knows how to direct a movie, because he had done Alien 3 before, and then he did this and just blew people out of the water. So Seven is what a lot of people would say a masterpiece. I think that it falls just short, because leading up to that final act, it can get a little like, okay, we're going through the motions here, but it's still really interesting. It's all set out perfectly. Unfortunately, I was spoiled for this before I saw the movie, so I knew what was going to happen at the end, which kind of put a damper on things, which is why I didn't watch Seven for the longest time, but it's still a great, great movie that I know a lot of people adore. I really like it. It's just not my favorite by any means. Coming in at number 4 for me is going to be Gone Girl. Now, this movie is electric. It's 2 hours and 30 minutes, around there somewhere, I want to say. It stars Ben Affleck, Rosamund Pike, who garnered an Oscar nomination, rightfully so, and it is wild. This movie is a complete thrill ride from start to finish. It's wacky. I mean, there are some brutal moments in this movie. Fincher likes to put those in there if you didn't catch it by now, but this is really just a true crime movie, a crime mystery drama movie. Fincher does a great job of crafting, yet again, another creepy atmosphere, and Ben Affleck's character is kind of a shady dude at times, but Rosamund Pike's character is terrifying. I mean, she does such a great job in this movie. Neil Patrick Harris in a supporting role is great. I wanted to rewatch this before this ranking. I did not get around to it, but I own it on Blu-ray. I'm going to rewatch it soon. Gone Girl is a super slept-on movie. It's easily top 5 Fincher for me. The score by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross adds another level to it, especially a scene where Rosamund Pike is driving. She's kind of explaining her plotting. Really well done, and the end of this movie will haunt you. Fincher knows how to direct a movie. Honestly, I wish this movie got more love from the Academy, and it's one that I need to try and rewatch more because, my goodness, it's disturbing, dark, gritty, and intense from start to finish. It's all I want in a Fincher movie. Coming in at number 3 for me is going to be the movie that I can't talk about. That's going to be Fight Club. I already broke the first rule. I know. I am going to talk about Fight Club, though. I feel like everyone makes that joke. If that joke annoys you, let me know in the comments down below. I will never stop making it, but let me know in the comments down below. Brad Pitt, Edward Norton, icons, Tyler Durden, the narrator. You already know that the image of Brad Pitt, it just wearing the nice pink jacket with the soap and the sunglasses, like that is one of the most iconic outfits from the 90s. This movie just kind of exudes cool in my opinion, and I think Brad Pitt does that in and of himself, but just the Fight Club in general is an interesting concept, but when you look at it as a piece that's kind of a critique on society and consumerism and all this stuff, it really makes for an interesting movie. And I actually did a project on this in high school in my AP psychology class where I had to diagnose the narrator, and it was really interesting to dive deep into the mind of the characters in this movie. I love Fight Club, don't get me wrong. I think it's one of the top 10 endings of all time. You met me at a very strange time in my life. That is perfect. And then when Where Is My Mind by the Pixies, I want to say, plays, like that, I just got chills. I'm going to insert a clip.
You met me at a very strange time in my life.
One of the best movie endings ever. I will argue with anyone. The twist, I also was spoiled for, unfortunately, but I could kind of pick up on it, if that's weird. I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but I could kind of pick up on the twist. Still, it's a brilliant movie from start to finish. One of the most iconic movies of all time, and I broke the first rule too much. I apologize. But my runner-up, coming in at number 2, is going to be The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. Now, I just watched this movie a few days ago for the first time, and it's my number 2. This movie is spectacular. It's a movie that just really hit me in the feels. In the place I'm at in life right now, it resonates with me so hard. Following Benjamin Button throughout his life as he's born as an old man and then he's aging in reverse is so compelling to me as you see the complications and consequences that has on his relationship with Cate Blanchett, with other friends and family. It's a really interesting piece on life in general and the decisions that you make, and it reminded me so much of Forrest Gump in a good way. I love Forrest Gump. It's one of my favorites of all time, but this just takes great elements from that, and you just see this guy's life. It's so intriguing to me, and you can tell David Fincher directed it. It's an epic movie. I think this is probably his most epic movie in my opinion, because he does crime dramas and mind-bending stuff, and then he's got The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, which is this tale from start to finish that's so charming. It's got such a unique charm to it. I can't help but smile, and I actually teared up various times. There were great father-son moments that ripped my heart out, and just relationship moments that hit me right in the feels. I mean, Brad Pitt gives one of his best performances here. Performances across the board are great. Directing is great. The script is great. This movie had like 13 Oscar nominations. I honestly wish that it won Best Picture. I know it was 2008. I said Slumdog Millionaire should have won that year. I know Dark Knight didn't get nominated. That's why I'm not counting it. But I would have gone Benjamin Button over Slumdog all day. This movie is phenomenal. One that I want to own on Criterion. I know that it's one of the wacky Criterions, but still. Yes, it's 2 hours and 46 minutes. Yeah, it's a little slow to get going because I was like, oh my goodness, that's some weird CGI there. This is going to take some getting used to. But like 10 minutes in after there's a first flashback scene, I was all in and I was just glued to the screen. I could hardly look away. It's rare that movies do that to me where I'm just entranced into the screen and I feel like I'm actually watching the movie. I'm a part, like I'm just there, the camera. That's what I felt like. This movie blew me away, exceeded all my expectations. I could see this movie becoming one of my favorites of all time, but taking the top spot coming in at number 1, of course, is The Social Network. When you pair a director like David Fincher with a powerhouse screenwriter like Aaron Sorkin, you're going to get movie magic. This is one of my top 5 favorite movies of all time. I've rewatched it 3 times alone this year. Eisenberg, phenomenal. But the real crime here is that Eduardo Saverin, who is played by Andrew Garfield, was not nominated for an Academy Award. Theft. I don't know what the Oscars were on that year, but the score by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, one of the most unique I've ever heard. It won the Oscar, I think, and it won over Inception, which I'm fine with. I know that I go back and forth, but right now, I'm fine with it. Betrayal, friends, family, all of these things play a role in the movie, and lust for power.
Your lust for power.
Greed. I mean, there's so many themes in here that are rich, and the fact that the screenplay is so brilliant adds to it. The dialogue, this movie is literally just people sitting around in rooms talking to each other, planning about Facebook in meetings, and it's one of the most damn compelling movies I've ever seen. I want to rewatch this pretty much monthly. I've seen it 3 times this year, like I said. If you need to kill 2 hours, put on The Social Network. It's a masterpiece of a movie. I think it's the best movie of the past decade, and it honestly will be one of those classics in years down the road that people are like, oh my gosh, you guys haven't seen The Social Network? So yeah, that's going to do it for my David Fincher ranking of all 11 movies in his filmography. Definitely hit the like button and comment down below your ranking of the David Fincher movies. Do you agree with my list? Do you disagree? Would you have put some higher or lower? Do you think Alien 3 is a masterpiece? Let me know down below. But if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel. It would mean the world. I've got a ton of content planned for the rest of the year that I'm really excited to bring to you guys, so stay tuned for all that and more. And until next time, I'll see you guys later.